say, okay, guide me to their mitote. And so they began targeting the mitotes as one, demonic rituals, but also as the centers of resistance to them. And what I'm posing in the article is that if you have hunters and gatherers resisting for centuries, why are they resisting? I mean, don't they see the benefits of higher civilization? Don't they see the benefits of going to church all the time? They had a difficulty accepting it on two counts. One is that they were being asked to come in as slaves with no status and be the drones for civilization. But the other one is that they were motivated by their core ideological beliefs that we are a people. We have a religion. We have spirits that protect us. We are organized. We have a core ideology that sanctifies all our activities, all the way from rituals to war making. So that is the heart of, that's what I call the sacred heart of social organization. Any other questions?
No.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Earlier that you said the idea or ideology could be corrupt, and you gave the example of one group raiding another one because they needed food or something of that nature. Now the raiding, is that what makes it corrupt, or how is it corrupt? If I'm looking at it from a historical perspective, and I'm just looking at it, well, that's just what happened. How is it?
Ideologically, the first step in the ideology is that everything is sacred. And so therefore, you don't want to kill an animal or a human unless you absolutely have to, and so when it gets to raiding, now you're very often not just surviving, you're accumulating wealth and building up your spiritual power. Because they believe that, for example, labor was a form of spiritual power. Food was a form of energy. I mean, you could actually talk about this whole system as an energy system. You can talk about modernity as an energy system. The difference, in fact, let me just go to just a couple of comparisons between the, because I advertise this as the critique of modernity. So what is the critique of modernity? Well, they had an ecological view in which there was a reciprocity built into it, and we're only coming around to that view now after we destroyed most of the earth. And now we're saying now we have to go back to a reciprocal view with the environment, and in order to do that, we have to have a reciprocal relationship with ourselves instead of a competitive view. The idea, part of the ethic that came out of this belief system was also one of generosity and gift giving. And so you would, for example, even if it was your enemy coming down the road, you would welcome the enemy into your home, and you would treat with each other, and there would be no violence while you were carrying this out. They were aware of the value of things they produced, but at the earlier stages, they were not into what we call monetized trade. So, for example, they traded goods in order to reaffirm relationships rather than to make a profit. These societies were highly tuned to their environment. If they did not collaborate and cooperate as a community, as a group, they would die or suffer the consequences of famine or other stuff. So the ideology, this beautiful ideology, was actually designed for social control, the control of the individual, and forcing the individual to collaborate, and forcing the individual to draw his prestige, not from the accumulation of wealth as in our societies, but from the giving of himself to the group. The prestige came from how much can you do for the community, for the group. That was, and so it's a severe contrast to our individualistic culture in which we measure importance through wealth. And so those are some of the primary contrasts with modernity. It's a culture of communal cooperation versus one of selfishness. And certainly I would say that capitalism is greed elevated to an economic ideology. And the way that we are controlled by the power, the corporations and the government, is by giving us the special status of individuals. We revel in the idea that we're individuals and we go anywhere, free anything, go to the shopping mall, not attend class. We can do anything. You know, we can stuff ourselves with ice cream or go on a diet if we want. So we're free individuals. But that also means that we're unable to cooperate with each other. We have no class consciousness, and we are unable, with the exception of some voluntary groups in America, dedicated to specific causes like saving the children or saving the cats, or providing some other periodic succor to society. We are unable to organize ourselves, except in severe times of crises, to force our government to take care of us instead of taking care of the corporations.
Well, then maybe this is the last one.
Yeah.
No,
go ahead.
Okay.
I gave my students an assignment to do while I'm giving.
Oh, I love it. Okay. Actually, I love these last comments. Just beautiful. But earlier, you just said something that reminded me when you were talking about everything having part of the sacred power, everything having a very early elemental belief. And you just made me think of a little line in the Gospels, and I think it's when Jesus is coming into Jerusalem and everyone's saying Hosanna. It may not be, but one of the disciples says, oh, silence these people. They're making a ruckus. And he said, look, if the people didn't cry out, even the very stones would cry out. And it was a recognition, I think, in a way, of just a consciousness that's there, not just among humans, but even among something that we might be willing to say is inert. So it just sort of seemed to connect up with this view that was shown.
Even if you did not believe that there is spiritual power, I mean, if you talk to a geologist and you hear him talk about how the rocks evolved over millennia, and you know that there's and we know that this cable is not composed of just dead solid material. There's molecules circulating around here and is giving it the specific form. So that if we just I would say that in order to move our ecological agenda forward, we do need to go back to think of the earth as sacred. Okay, well, there's no other questions.
Well, I had one, but you need to.
No, go ahead. My
My
students are well instructed in how to teach themselves.
My question is, in this study, what's the methodological, and are there some studies that have done this kind of thing? You've alluded to those. Or?
I'm using mostly Spanish colonial documents, and I'm reading past the ethnocentrism, but then I'm interpreting what I find there by taking anthropological studies of native societies, and then there are historical anthropologists that are studying also documents from an anthropological perspective. And so, and then there's tons of material published on religious beliefs. In fact, just on the American First Nations in the United States, there's an incredible amount of stuff on their spiritual beliefs. And every book I pick up on U.S. Native Americans, they're always talking about this specific point of view. It's not like there's a debate or a conflict out there. All of the sources are saying this is what they believe. That we ignore it, that's another story. That we don't value it, that's another story. Sharon, did you have one?
Just a quick, I think this is a quick question. I'm interested this is not my area,
Yeah.
but I'm very interested, and some of your argument strikes me as extremely broad-reaching and also potentially controversial. So I'm interested in asking you what you see as the most controversial aspect of the work that you're doing.
Well, I mean, people are going to try to nail me in precisely that aspect, that how can you draw these broad conclusions and talk about hunters and gatherers in the same breath as Aztec and Inca. And I pose in my flyer in the abstract that there is both a horizontal continuity among belief, but also a vertical continuity in the sense that the Aztecs, even though they had a very highly developed